Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to build a very simple product page using React, Vite, and Tailwind CSS. Now, the reason for this product page is to show you how to set up and integrate internalization into your React application. Now, we are not going to build the internalization or set it up. We are going to rather use a third-party package. Popular packages like React Internationalization or the Internationalization library, we are going to set it up in our React application. And then users should be able to select their languages. Now, this is how the finished app would look like. It's very simple, okay? We shouldn't really mind the product page itself. What we are most interested in is the text and the languages. So we are going to implement a very simple select drop-down. You can see we have English, Spanish, French, and Dutch. So if I select Spanish, you can see that the texts have been updated. Okay, so the text right here have been updated. If I select French, you can see that it updates. And let me reload the page. You see, whenever I reload, it persists the selected language. I can select German right here, which is Deutsch, and I can go back to English. Okay, so I'm going to show you how you can set up internalization in your React application. First, let's scaffold the project with Vite's official React plus TypeScript template. I believe you already have Node.js installed, so we are going to use the npm create command. So I'm going to type npm inside the folder where I want to create my project. Npm create space Vite at latest, and then the name of the project, I will call this product dash page, and dash dash space dash dash template, and the name of the template is react dash ts, which is react dash typescript. Okay, so this is the command we need to create the project using Vite. I'll hit enter and I will select ESLint. Yes, install with npm. It's going to install the dependencies and then start the server. We'll just wait a bit. And now you can see it has started the server. Okay, and it runs on port 5173. So I'll go to the browser. So localhost 5173. And you can see the page that we have. So we already scaffolded our project. We are going to start setting it up. I have my project open in VS Code. And to just take a quick look, right here, if I go to main.tsx, you would see we have the main file, which is the entry point to the application. And then we have our app.tsx, which acts as the root component. And then you can see here we have a basic Vite configuration. We are not going to touch this only after we add Tailwind CSS, okay? So this is just a basic scaffolding of the React application. So this is the standard React 19 bootstrapping. Now, what we want to do is to add and configure Tailwind CSS version 4. Okay, so it's very simple. I'll open my terminal. Now, sometimes you would see some applications install Tailwind CSS as a dependency, sometimes as a dev dependency. I will install both as dev dependencies. So npm install Tailwind CSS, or rather -d. So we install as dev dependencies, Tailwind CSS, and we need at Tailwind CSS slash Vite. Okay, so we need to install these packages. And if we check, they have been installed as dev dependencies. So we can see them here. Okay, and the others were added when we ran the Vite command. Now we also need to go to our vite.config so that we can set up Tailwind CSS here. So in the plugins after React, so I'll say Tailwind CSS as a method, and then we need to import it. Okay, so I will import it and it's going to be import Tailwind CSS from at Tailwind CSS / Vite. Okay, so this is the setup we need right here in this file. And then we need to go to our source, then index.css. Remove everything you have from your index.css. And it's very simple. We are going to import or use the at import. So at import and then Tailwind CSS. Okay, so this is what we have. And maybe if we want, let's just add some simple styles. I'll add at theme. Okay, it's just very simple. Then this will be font serif, and I'll say Frances. Okay, and UI that serif, Georgia serif. This is the fonts, and dash font sans inter UI dash sans dash serif system dash UI sans dash serif. This should be serif. Okay, so the next thing, I will just set the body and font family. This will be var using variable and dash font dash sans and dot font dash serif. As a class, I'll add this, and this will be font serif. Okay, so we are also going to lean towards using font awesome, but for now, this is just all we need at this point inside our index.css file. Okay, so like I just said, we'll lean towards using font awesome for icons, just for simplicity's sake. Okay, so that we can add icons, very simple icons. We don't need to create SVG icons. So go to your index.html, and I would first change the product name. So you can give this whatever you want. I'll call this Terra dash pour dash over dripper. Yeah, it's just a name. Okay, so you can add whatever title you want. Now what I need to do is I need to go to the browser, and you can search for font awesome CDN. Okay, so on this cdn.js, click on it. The first one with all.min.css, copy the second icon. So click this, and then after the title, you can paste this here. So this will give us access to all the free icons. With this, we don't need to install any third-party icon library or create our own SVG icons. We can just easily use this. Okay, so now notice that we gave the page a proper title. You can see if I go to the page, let me restart the server. So npm run dev right here. And if you can see as the way it looks right here. Don't pay attention to the page the way it is. We're going to update. Okay, so we have that taken care of now. Our plan for the components that will be used is very simple. We are going to have the app component, which is like the root component. Then we are going to have three smaller components. Okay, so the star rating component, the language switcher component, and the product page component. Okay, so we are starting with the star rating component, like I showed you in the demo, and which you are going to see also. The majority of the component, or all the components we have on the page, they are just read only. Okay, so there are no interactions. Okay, so we don't have to change data. We just use them as placeholders. So starting with the star rating component, it's a small reusable star rating display. Okay, it's just read only. There is no interaction. Then later we'll create a product page. This product page will contain the header, the gallery, the product details. And then we'll have the language switcher. It's just a simple drop down for switching the user's language. So let's start with the star rating component. So inside the source folder, I'll create a components folder. So components, okay? So create components, and it's going to be very simple. I'll call this star rating.tsx since we are using React. Like I already said, it's going to be just a read-only component. There is not going to be any form of interactions. Okay, so export function. So we're using a functional component, star rating. Okay, and it takes in some props, a value. We can just give it a default 4.9 and then a label. Okay, and this will be of type value. It's a number. Okay, value is a number, and label is a string. And this will return a React element. Okay, so this will return a React element, and we're already exporting it right here. Now I'm going to return the React element right here, and we have a div. Okay, and we use a class name, and we add flex as the class. Remember, we are using Tailwind CSS flex, items center, gap 1. Okay, and you can add a role, img image, and Arial dash label. You can add the label. Okay, and then the next thing, uh, let's call array dot from. So we just create an array. So array dot from, and then we pass the length. So if you want to create an array of items or maybe an array of numbers, you can use array dot from, and the length is 5. Okay, so that is what we are setting. And we are going to call dot map because we want to loop through the created array. And in the map, we pass the callback. We don't need the first item, so we use underscore. We only need the index. Okay, so right here. And then we can either use curly braces or we use normal brackets. Okay, if you use curly braces, that means you need to add the return keyword. But if you use a normal bracket, you don't need to add the return keyword. Automatically, it's the component or the element will be returned. So here, I'll say const field equal to the index plus 1 is less than or equal to math.round and then value. Then we want to return, okay, so we want to return the element, and I'll return a font awesome icon, or I can use the shorthand. And right here, we can specify the key. Okay, so here will be key, and it will be index. For now, it's fine to use the index as the key, and the class name, and I will use this. I will add fa dash star text sm, and then I want to add some other properties. So if field is true, then the class is fas text stone dash 800. Else is going to be far text stone dash 300. And down here, I can just add area hidden equal to true. And this is just all we need inside this component. Okay, so this is all we need here in the star rating. Like I said, no interactions. As you can see, we don't have any handler. It's just going to be a read-only star rating component. Okay, so we have this now taken care of. Let us start setting up our product page. In the components folder, I'll create a file called productpage.tsx. Okay, and as well, it's going to be a component. Here, I can export function product page. It's not going to take any props. It's going to return a React element. Okay, and for this, I'll return the HTML scaffold. Now for this, I will just copy it. Okay, and you can get the code from the GitHub repo. Okay, so you can get this. Let me just paste this right here. You can see this is a little bit different. Okay, this is a little bit different. So instead of us spending time to try to type all of this out, I just provided it. So here on the product page, we have our header section, product section, and the footer section. Okay, so just to update the footer, what I'm going to do for now, let me just leave it this way. Okay, so I will leave this the way it is. And let's just go ahead and add some properties. I will set type color key. So this is going to be like a property that will be used on the product. So sand or clay or ink. And then type size key. This will be 1 or 2. Okay. And we can create a const. I'll call this colors or color swatches. This will be of type record, which is an object, color key, and the value is going to be of type string. Okay, so sand, you can add whatever color you want. So I'm going to just paste the colors. So let me just paste them. Whatever color you feel like using, you can use them. Okay, sand, clay, and ink. Okay, so at this point, notice the color key and size key union types. Okay, so this means TypeScript would catch a typo if maybe we type something like clay with a double Y, or we type something different. As you can see, it doesn't match, so it throws an error. Okay, so the color key expects sand, clay, or ink, and it's going to be done at compile time instead of at runtime. And color swatches is a lookup table map or a lookup table mapping each color key to its actual hex value. Okay, you can use whatever colors you want, which we'll reuse for both the swatches and illustration later. Okay, now for the header, it's very simple. This is just what we have. Later, we are going to update this so that whenever the languages are changed, this will be updated as well. Now let's go ahead and use this. So I will make use of this product page. Go to your app component. Let me remove this app.css. We don't need it. Do I have it here? No. So I will come right here and remove all of this and remove all these as well. Remove all these as well. The only thing we need is the product page component. So product page. Okay, and that's it. We don't need anything else. React elements. So save this, and now let's see the browser, and this is how it looks. Okay, so this is how the page looks. Okay, Nothing happens here. We're going to add a drop down. And like I said, all of these, they are just placeholders. Okay, so there are no interactions, just placeholders. What we're interested in are the texts. Okay, so once we change the language, we want to be able to see the text change as well. What we need to do next is to create a simple reusable component so that we can reuse the SVGs that were used to create these elements. Okay, so if I go to the product page, you can see them right here. You can see the SVGs were used to create these elements displayed. So what I'm going to do is I will just, for now, copy this part. Okay, so I'll copy it and then go down. I don't want to create it in a separate component. We can just add it here, a simple function. So function, I'll call this dripper illustration, and this will take some props. So color, size, which is I would say small, equal to false. Okay, and the type color string, then small optional is going to be a boolean. Okay, and this will also return a React element. Okay, and then here first I'll create a prop const and s equal to small. So if small is true, then I'll set 0.55, else 1. Okay, and now we can return the element. Okay, and then here let me paste this. Okay, so let's see what we can change. Okay, we'll see what I can change. So for the SVG, you know what? Let me just paste it, copy and paste so that to save a lot of time. So I'll just copy and paste. Okay, so right here, I'll paste it. And you can see what I have here. I set the weight, the height, the view box, fill, area hidden. Then we have this other properties, ellipse, and we have the other properties. Okay, you can see them, so we don't really need to go through them at all. Now we can use them. Okay, so let me see why I have this. This is small. Okay, now we have this dripper illustration. Let's go to the top and make use of it. So we can remove what we don't need. So I'll remove this part right here. Or you know what we can do? Let me remove this. And for now, collapse this. What I want to do is I will use a loop and a grid as well. So div, and this will be class name. So grid dash calls dash 4, and then gap 3. Okay, and here I will just add an array so that we can loop through the array. And this is going to be sand, clay, ink. So this is an array, and maybe what we can do, we can cast it. So let's cast this. Okay, so I want to cast this as, remember that we said it has to be of type color key. Okay, so I need to cast it. So I'll cast this as color key array, and then outside dot map, see right here. Okay, and I'll add a button. And inside the button, I'll add the drape component. And we need to pass the color. So color equal to color swatch or swatches, and then we use the C property. Okay, so remember the color swatches. The keys are the of type color key. Okay, and set small to true. Okay, so I'll just set small. Okay, and now on the button, we need to add a key property. So this will be C. On click, for now, we don't have it, but I'll just, let me just set color. We have not created it. I'll create it later. And let me paste the color because I don't want to type all that. Okay. So we don't have set color and color use state properties. So these are the properties. And then if color is equal to C, then we add this border. Otherwise, we had the border stone 200 and the hover property. Okay. And after class, we can add style. And this will be background color. And we can set a background color. So let me just copy this. Or maybe I can use this. So I'll use this right here and then paste it here. Okay. And we can add Arial-label. For now, we don't have it. Or let me just use C for now. Okay. So this is the first part. I just discovered that I made a mistake. You can see this is supposed to be here, not inside this particular div. You can see they both have the same class name. Okay, so what I can do is just remove all these buttons and then copy this part, cut this part, and then paste it right here. Okay, and then for this, I can remove and I will just add. So we have this span, and then here I just need to call the dripper illustration. And here, this will be color. So color swatches, color, and I can remove this. Now let's go ahead and create the use state properties. So first, const, this will be color and set color. Use state is going to be of type color key, and we can set a default of clay. Okay, then const size, set size, use state, and the default is going to be, or the property will be size key, and default will be 1. And we can set quantity, set quantity, use state, number, and the default 1. Okay, so now we have used our color properties. You can see them right here. So if the user clicks, it will set the color property. Let's see. And now you can see, so whenever I click right here, maybe I can make this one 3 instead of 4. Let's see, pulse 3. Yeah. Okay, so I'll remove this part. I don't need it. Okay, so I'll take it out. And if I go back, and you can see how it looks now. So whenever I click, it updates the illustrator. Okay, So now we have taken care of this part. Let's see. Okay, so for now, let's just see if there's something we can add. Okay, uh, here under the color selector, instead of using these buttons, I'll use a loop as well. So something similar to this to save ourselves some time. So I'll copy this, paste it right here. Okay, and we are not using the deep dripper illustration, so we're just using one of these buttons. So I'll copy one of these and then paste it right here. Okay, and let's not forget, I'll add key, which is C, and on click, set color. Okay, and one thing that I missed, the area label. So for area label, because later we are going to make some changes, so I will just add this. And we have our class name. But for the style itself, or for the class name, let me copy this, make changes. Okay. And for the style, the background color will be color swatches, and then we use C to get the property. Okay. And we don't need these two buttons, so you can take them out. Okay. So we have taken care of that part. You know what? Let's just start working on adding the translations setup. Okay. And for the translation setup, I will open my terminal. Let's see what we can start with. And what we want to do is to install some packages. As you know, the texts you have here, like shop, about, careguard, they are hard coded. Okay. So what I'm going to do is to install some packages. I'll say npm install i18next react dash i18next, and then i18next dash browser dash language detector. Okay, so these are the three packages: i18next react, i18next, and i18next browser language detector. So let's go ahead and install those packages. Now they are installed. Why do we use these libraries instead of just writing our own? One reason is because they already solve a lot of problems for us. Okay, so the i18next is the most widely used JS translation library. Then the React i18next is for React bindings. And then the i18next browser language detector is to automatically detect the visitor's language. Okay, and let me go into the source and create a folder. I'll call this i18n. Okay, so create this. And like I already said, the i18next handles the interpolation, okay, the pluralization of the text across different languages, the fallback languages, and the namespacing. While the React i18next is for the React bindings. This gives us access to hooks like the useTranslation, okay? And then the i18next browser language detector, it knows how to check the URL string, local storage, the browser's navigator language, okay, so that it detects the user's language. Now let us set them up. So create this folder, and inside the folder, create another folder called locals, okay? And inside the i18n, create a file called index.ts, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'll just set up one locale. For now, I'll just set up the English locale, so en, And then inside the en, I'll create translations.json, or let me see if it's translations or translation. Okay, I can call it translation.json. Okay, so our translations will be added as a JSON file. So I'll copy and paste it. Okay, so I'll copy and paste it. So what we have here basically are just keys and values. So for example, for the nav, we have a nav property, and inside we have the different properties. For example, shop, about, and care guard or guide. You can see them right here, even the cat, then the badge, the product. Okay, so this is how the English translation is. Everything we have right here is hard coded, but we are going to be reading them from this translation.json file. Okay, so you can just copy these locales from the GitHub repo. It's just very easy to set up, as you can see. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is inside the index.ts, let us set everything up. Now the core package is this i18next, which is the engine that manages the translation resources, the language state, the interpolation, the fallback logic, the namespaces. So first we need to import it. So I'll say import i18n from the i18next package. Okay. And then the next is the React bindings. So we need to get the React bindings, and we can get them from the React i18next package. So import init React, okay, from the React i18next package. So it provides the i18next provider, the useTranslation hook, the component, and this package makes sure that React re-renders the components when the active language or the loaded resources change. Okay, and then import language detector from i18next language detector. So this plugin automatically detects the user's preferred language by inspecting things like the URL query string, the local storage, the browser's navigator.language, or it can also detect, if I go to the index.html, it can also detect the language specified on the HTML tag. Okay, so I'll show you how we can also update this. Okay, whenever the language changes, we are going to update this language property on the HTML tag. And this i18next browser language detector can detect the language on the HTML tag. Now, the next is to import the first locale. So import, I'll say en from the locale that we have /locales/en/translation JSON, because we only have one locale, which is the English. Okay. Now the next thing is we create a single source of truth describing every language the app supports. So const, or I need to export it. Let me just collapse this. So export const, I'll call this supported languages. Okay, and this will just have object code. So the code en, the label, so English, and the direction. Now for the direction, we either have left to right or right to left. So LTR, and I'll cast this as LTR or RTL. Okay. So the LTR or the RTL is just the text direction. So when we change the language, how do we want the direction of the text to be? Is it from right to left or from left to right? Okay. and I can cast this as a const. So we have the supported languages. So any language we add, we are going to update this supported languages list. Now, also we need to compute once at module time the list of languages codes. So const, I think I need to export this as well. Export const RTL languages. This will be of type language code. This language code, I can define it right here. So export type language code. This will be type of supported languages, and then the type number, and then we want to get the code property. So whatever type is returned from this, that is what we set as the language code. And this is equal to supported languages. Now we need to filter, dot filter. So any language that supports left or right to left, we want to filter it out. We only want to support languages that go from left to right. One such language, I think, that goes from right to left, I think is Arabic. Okay? So since we don't have Arabic right here, so it's better I will just filter it. So if L dot direction is equal to RTL. But I might be wrong, but I think Arabic goes from right to left. But we're only interested in languages that go from left to right. Then dot map, and right here, L dot, we return the code. Okay, so the supported languages, we filter out any language that has direction right to left, and then we just return the code in a map. So whatever the code is, that is what we return in a map. Okay, and now I'll create a property. I'll say void i18n. Okay, and then I'm going to add some properties. Now, the reason why I'm using void is because void explicitly discards the returned promise or instance from the init method. So we want to call the internationalization init method. So we are using void. And then here dot use. So language, we pass language detector, and then dot use init react i18next. Okay, so the first one is it detects the browser language automatically, either from the navigator, query string, or local storage. And then the second one, it registers the React binding plugin. So this plugin, this React binding plugin, React i18next, so it registers it, okay, for React rendering. And then we call the .init. Now, .init will pass an object, and then inside we set our resources. Our resources. Resources is an object. Here we specify the language or the languages. So since we have only English, I'll say EN, and then translation colon EN. Okay, so this is what we have under resources. And then after the resources, we can add a fallback. So fallback language. So you can add any fallback language. For me, I'll use English. Okay. So if the detected or requested language isn't available, or a key is missing for that language, just use the fallback language, which is English. Okay. Let's say, for example, the detected language is French, and in the French translation file, maybe this property shop is missing. Okay, so what it will do is it will use the property from the fallback language to replace that property in the French language. Okay, so that is what we have right here. That is why we are setting a fallback language. and then supported languages. So supported LNGS. This will be supported languages.map right here, and we return the code. And then interpolation. This is an object, and for this, inside the interpolation, I will set escape value to false. Okay. Now the idea for this is React already escapes values when rendering text. So we disable i18next own HTML escaping of interpolated values. Okay, so that we avoid double escaping. That is why we are setting this to false, because React already does the escaping for us. So we don't want the i18next interpolation to do any form of escaping. Now, after the interpolation, detection. This is an object. So this is just configuration for the language detector. And remember, I said the properties that it checks, the query string, the local storage, the navigator, and it can check HTML tag. So we want to specify the order. So I'll add an array. So the first property is query string. Then the next one, if it doesn't find any language in the query string, it will check the local storage. If it doesn't find anything in the local storage, it checks the navigator. And if it doesn't find the navigator, it checks the HTML tag. Now, if it doesn't find the language in any of these properties, it will just use the fallback language. Okay, but first it will check the query string. If it doesn't find, it checks the local storage. And then our cache or caches, I want it to be in the local storage. So I want the property to be stored in the local storage. And the lookup local storage. So we pass a key. I'll call this product page language. You can give this whatever name you want. Okay. So lookup local storage. This is the key that will be used to store the selected language in the local storage. Okay. And then whenever we come to the page, the package will check the query storage if it finds any property. If it doesn't, it checks the local storage. Okay. And after the detection, I will just say return empty string. I'll set this to false. Okay, so if a translation key resolves to an empty string, so treat it as missing. Let's say, for example, in a different language, maybe say French, this shop property returns an empty string. We want it to be treated as a missing language so that it uses the fallback, which is English. Okay, so that is why I set this return empty string to false. So these are the properties that we need. And then down here, I will say export default i18n. This is just all we need. Okay. So we export the fully configured i18next instance as the default export so that it can be imported once into the main.tsx file. So let's go to our main.tsx. So right here, maybe somewhere here, I can import the i18n. Remember that we exported it as a default export right here. So this is just all we need for configuring the internalization using the i18next, the React i18next, and the language detector. Okay, now let's go to our product page. So I'll go to the product page, and here I will import, so const, let me get the useTranslation. Okay, use translation from the React i18next. Okay, and from this use translation hook, what do I need? I just need the T property. It's a function. Okay, so this is the function that will be called, and all we need to do is to pass in the key. So I'll show you how we can do that. It's very simple. Okay, so let's start. We don't need to change the name of the app. So for shop, this I will remove shop. So instead of using shop, I will add the curly brackets, then T. And since this is a method, I'll call the key, which is nav.shop. Nav.shop. Save this. And then I can paste this here. Paste this here as well. This one will be nav.about. And this will be nav.care. Okay, this is just how we need to call the method from the use translation hook. Let's check the browser and you can see it works. Okay, you can see right here that it works. We have the shop, about, and care guide. Let's see if there's something else we can change. I think maybe this new text, let's change it. I think we can find it under badge. So here is going to be T, and then we pass badge dot new. Yes, badge dot new. So we pass the key right here. Okay, and we can check for other translations. Let's see if there are some other things that we need. The Arial label, I'm just thinking if I need to change it or just leave it this way. And for the details, so I will change the details. This will be T, and this will be product.name. Okay, and this will be T. This will be product.tagline. All of these are found here. You can see name, tagline. Okay, and let's see. Here we can add our star rating. Okay, so we can add our star rating component. So I will just call it star rating, and value 5, label, and T, and this will be product.rating. Okay, and then for this part where you have these reviews, I'll change this to T, and this will be product dot, I think let me check, reviews count. Yes, so product dot reviews count. Okay, so we have that here. Let's see, I think I can move this. Let me move this out and remove this. Okay, and then we can add other properties here. T, this will be product.price, and this will be price compare, right? Let me check. Product.price, yes, price compare. Okay, and then here we can add description. So product.description. Okay, and for the color selector here, I can say T, product dot color label, and T, or I will use backticks, product dot colors dot color as const. So right here, so we don't get any issues. Okay, let's go to the size selector. So for size, this will be product dot size label. Okay, and then on the button, instead of using these two buttons, we can use a loop, something similar to what we have here. So I'll copy this and come right here, paste, and let's just change. We have the key, the on click. So instead of set color, I'll say set size. So this will be, the size will be 1, 2. I don't need this. And this will be size key array. And let's change all of this right here. And let me just paste the class name similar to this. We don't need a style, so I can take it out. So we don't need a style. And inside the button, I'll add this product dot sizes dot s. Okay, and we can remove these two buttons. Let's check. Okay, we don't have any issues here, and you can see we have new season displayed. And I will do the same for quantity. And for quantity, we can just go without using the loop. So this will be, let me copy one of these. So for quantity, this will be product dot quantity label. Product dot quantity label. I'll change this first span to a button. Okay, and on click, and then I'll set quantity, and I'll add a callback. So math.max 1 and q minus 1. Okay, just to set some random quantity. And then we have the class name, the Arial hidden. And then for this one here, I'll just set quantity. This is going to also be a button. And I'll copy this on click, paste here. So for the quantity, I don't need to use dot math. I can just say q plus 1. Okay, and we have our parts right here. Product dot buy now. Okay, product dot, or no, this should be product dot add to cart. Oh yes, and then we have the buy now. Then this is product dot buy now, and product dot wish list right here. And here, this will be product dot stock in stock, and this will be product dot free shipping. Okay, so we have these. And now on the details, I will just paste this. I don't want to spend my whole time typing it out. So first here will be T products dot heading, and then all of these tags, I'll change them. I'll just paste this, so I don't want to spend time typing all of this. So it's from the details properties. So these details properties, that is what I just added here. And let me just add the rest. So we need the review. Okay, so, and then we set our count or the see all values. And then here we set the footer. And I think at this point, this is all we need in this particular component. So let's check. Okay, so we still have the texts displayed. Okay, but what we need the drop down so that we can change the language and then see it updated on the page. So let's go ahead and create our language selector or the language switcher, whichever one you want to call it. I'll call it language switcher. Language switcher .tsx. Okay, so here export function language switcher that returns a React element. Okay, and here we're going to use just the simple browser HTML select. Okay, so const from use transition or translation, not transition, translation. And what do we want? We want the i18n and the t function, the translate function. And then const handle change. So this will handle the changes from the drop down. So language code, this returns void. Okay, so void i18n dot change language, then I'll pass the code. So this is coming from the package. Okay, and then the next thing is what I want to do is if I go to my index.html, I want to update this language property on the HTML tag. Okay, so if German was selected, this should be updated to German. If French was selected, this should be updated to French. And to do that, I'll say document element dot direction. So first the direction RTL languages dot includes. If it includes the code, then RTL else LTR, and then documents dot document element dot lang. So the language will be equal to whatever the code is. Okay, so this is how we update this property in the HTML tag. And now let me just return the element, the React element. Label. You know what? Let me just paste it. So I'll paste the code. No need to type them all out. So I'll paste the code and then let me import this. So what I have here is very simple. Like I said, we are using the HTML select. So I have a label property, a span that displays the label, language label, and the select value is the resolved language or English, which is we're setting as the default. And then when the onChange is called, we call this handle change. So we get the event.target.value. We cast it as a language code. We have the class name and the area label. And then we loop through the supported languages. Remember, we already defined the supported languages here. Okay. And then in the option, we pass the key, the value, and the label inside the option. So this is just all we need inside our language switcher. And we're already exporting it. So I'll go to my product page. Okay. So I'll go to the product page and let's see down here. Yes. So here with this span, remove the span and I will add the language switcher. Okay. And this is just all we need. And on this cart, yeah, I will just add I can leave it, or maybe here. See, nav.cart. Okay, so let's go ahead and see. And if I click here, now you can see I have only the English language. So what I'm going to do is I'll add some other languages. I will just use AI to translate them, or I can show you. So I will go ahead and add the locales. So first, let me create the locales. So I'll create maybe the Spanish, and I'll just copy this, add it here. And I have it translated, but I will show you how I did it. So all I just did was go to Cloud Code or ChatGPT, whichever one, and just translate the values to Spanish. Okay, so it will translate the values. I can just copy it easily. Okay, and then I will just paste it here. Okay, so copy this. I'm showing you how you can add or quickly translate. So now I have the Spanish translations. Now let me go ahead and add it to the index file. So first I need to import es from locals es translations.json, and then I'll duplicate this. The code will be es, and this will be Espanol. I think I got this online, Espanol, and direction is left to right as well. And let's not forget, if we scroll down, we need to add it to the resources. So this is going to be es, and here is going to be es, and I think that should be it. Okay, so let's go ahead now and see. So if I come back here and I click, now you can see it's changing. So if I click Espanol, you can see it has changed to Spanish. I can go back to English. Okay, now if I check the local storage, application local storage, you can see that the product page language, which we set here, you can see it right here, it's English. If I change this to Spanish, you can see it has been changed to Spanish. And if I reload the page, because of this package we set up, the i18next browser language detector, we can see here that the order that it needs to check for the language code is query string. We don't have any query string here. So it checks local storage. So it checks local storage, it finds the key product page language. You can see it right here. And the value is Spanish, and then it's going to load that specific language. Okay, and let's add another translation. I'll add for German. Okay, paste it right here, and I'll say, let me just say, translate the English to German. So let's just wait and see. Paste this right here. So it will translate this to German. Okay, I will just copy this and then go to the German translation file and then paste this. And then go to the index, make sure I import it. And I'll change this to DE, DE. And then change this to DE as well. DE. This is going to be Deutsch. Deutsch. Okay, and then I need to add it to the resources. DE. And we have that. Okay, so if I go back to the page, reload, I have Deutsch. And you can see it has been translated to German language. Okay, you can see I can go back to English. And you can see it has been translated to English, to Spanish, to German. And one last one, French. Okay, so French. Let me get this. And translate to French. Okay, so while waiting for that, I can update this. This will be FR. So I'm going to place French. I can place it here. FR, Français, and then here, FR. And then let me get this, and then paste it right here. Okay, and I'll go back. And now we have English, Spanish, German. I don't know why I translated this. So German and French. Now, if you try it, maybe after adding the translations, it did not work. Just stop your server and restart it. Okay. So this is just how we make the changes. Okay. So we just add the translations and then we update the index.ts file in the internationalization folder. And at this point, this is just all we need. Okay. So right here, and you can see the translations are working. They are working as expected. Okay, so they are working as expected. So if I click here, it selects the colors right here. Okay, and I can go back to English and you can see that it's working. So at this point, we have been able to show you how you can set up the translations. Okay, I think I see something. Let me, okay, I can remove this. Remove this. Okay, save and go back. Okay, now it makes sense. Okay, so if you want to add internalization into your React app, you can follow this approach. You don't need to set it up yourself. You can use these packages, these libraries. They do the heavy lifting for us. Okay, so we don't really need to understand what's working behind the scenes. So all we just need to do is to be able to set it up in our own application and this library will take care of the formatting, the uh, pluralization, the reloading. Okay, so it will take care of everything. So right here, just check it one more time.